anything here. We haven't practiced. We're going to go out and we're going to see how it goes today. All right?
All right, so that's Bill. And so no one should ever be surprised that Bill is not naming his starting quarterback. If it was up to him, he probably wouldn't name a quarterback till the second quarter after the game had already started. That said, Ninko, the fact that there is not just this very clear from everywhere feeling that Mac Jones is our guy and there's no question about it, why does that concern you?
Confidence. Confidence in the player. And I had to, listen, when I was at this game Monday night, I literally have an issue with the Patriot fan base. You had a long run of terrific football. You get a first-round quarterback at number 15 who in his rookie season goes to a Pro Bowl and takes you to the playoffs. Coming back from an injury, you have a third-string quarterback that helps you win some football games. Okay. You have Mac Jones back in the lineup. He throws one interception, and the whole stadium is booing and chanting for Zappy. The whole stadium. The whole stadium is chanting for Zappy. What are we doing, Patriot fans? Like, what are we doing? Okay.
It's fun to say, Zappy.
It's Zappy. It's got a, it's got a.
But why is it a problem?
It's a problem because you have Mac Jones, who hasn't played much football. He's still a very young football player coming back from a high ankle, which he could have gone and had a surgery or done something other than, just rehabbed and pushed himself back out there sooner. And he looked good. He was running for first downs. The offensive system changed when Mac was in there versus when Zappy was in there. So number one, the offenses were completely different. Zappy's in, Zappy's under center. He's under center running the football. Mac's in, it's gun runs. I don't like a gun run. I don't like trying to run the football with no threat of RPO or anything like that when you're 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage. That means you have to run for 10 yards to gain 5. Doesn't make sense to me. So that is another issue. And Hembo sent me a thing that I just have to say it. So Mac has only started 39 games total from college and professional.
Right.
39 games.
Yeah.
So he needs more time. And the Patriots, to help him have more confidence, should come out and say, Mac is our guy. He's our starting quarterback. We drafted him number 15 overall, first round, and he is the guy that we're going to go into this matchup with and beat the Jets.
Well, so
it's confidence.
To the point we made a moment ago, that would be very unlike Bill, who basically liked to treat Tom Brady, who was the greatest quarterback of all time, like he was just one of the guys. But what you're saying is that maybe Brady was a guy who could take that and, in fact, used it as motivation, that maybe this is actually working against Mac psychologically.
Well, me and Dan talked about just generationally it could be different. You know, some younger guys are probably motivated differently. And you have to learn each player and what pushes that player. Sometimes, like myself, I could speak on how I was motivated. Somebody calling me out in front of the team would make me mad, and I'd go out there and perform. Well, I think that sitting down Mac and saying we had a plan, okay, that was the plan, fine. He never went back in the game.
Yeah. Right.
And to say that the game got away from them, they're only down 2 scores. They scored 14 points in 2 drives. So I think that the confidence issue is a big problem, and then the fans, they got to work on that.
Dan, inside the building, is there a quarterback controversy inside the building?
There has not, and there has never been inside the building. That Mac was always going to play when he was healthy. They felt like last week he was healthy enough to play, but not, fully healthy. So that for some reason, Belichick had the plan last week that both guys were going to play, and when they divvied up the practice reps last week, it was with that in mind. My understanding is that their plan for practice this week is Mac Jones. And so there's never been, so whatever's happening externally, inside the building, from my understanding, it's been made clear who the quarterback is.
I got to leave it there for the moment. I'm up against the hour, but I do want to come back to this because, I mean, there's a lot there, obviously, and Ninko understands it better than anybody. By the way, Saturday night, we got a great football game coming your way on ABC primetime. Jim Harbaugh, number 4 Michigan, hosting their arch rivals, Michigan State. Strange things happen.
Have one head-to-head win against them, and frankly, have all year look like the better team. The Packers have a lot of issues to fix. I'm not saying they can't fix them, but I think the time it will take to do that will probably put them too far behind. And if they make the playoffs this year, it'll probably be because they got hot late and got a wild card.
All right, so that video you see there of Aaron Rodgers just sort of lying there face down is sort of common of the thought that we have here. Here was Rodgers. He was Rodgers yesterday. Okay, let me explain what happened here. Okay, so Aaron Rodgers the other day had these comments on Pat McAfee's show in which he was critical of his teammates and actually talked about sitting them down. This is the quarterback, not the coach, talking about possibly benching players. That obviously came up again as he met with the media yesterday. Here's what he said.
People don't think I need to air that stuff out. That's their opinion. But I'm doing what I think is the best interest of our guys. And I've tried a lot of different things from a leadership standpoint this year. And, you know, I was just relating my personal feelings on the situation. I didn't call anybody out by name. I'm alerting everybody that this hasn't been good enough and we all got to do a little better job. You know, if one of those guys has a problem with it, I'm right here. I'd love to have a conversation.
It's so, everything he says is just so fascinating. And so yesterday, Nico, as a former player, I'm dying to hear your perspective. A lot of the former players here had an issue with a player suggesting that playing time needs to be taken away from others. What did you think of it?
I don't have an issue with it. It's Aaron Rodgers. The status of Aaron Rodgers and what Aaron Rodgers has accomplished in his career, if he feels that a receiver isn't running the proper routes, isn't being in the spots that he needs to be versus certain looks defensively, then he could easily say this guy needs to have a few reps taken away. Let's give somebody else a chance. I don't have a problem with that one bit because I would say that Aaron Rodgers probably understands a little bit more on how to look into a player and how to feel a player on the field versus what a coach knows just standing on the sidelines. Because Aaron Rodgers has been in situations where he has confidence in his receivers that had veteran receivers in the past, and now he's trying to work with a young group of guys that are learning as they go. I have no issue with this. Aaron Rodgers has earned the right to do that, and I can guarantee that other veteran quarterbacks in the past have influenced the amount of reps that a receiver has gotten on a football field based on their status. Tom Brady, maybe? Certainly.
I would add to that, and Graz, I'll come to you in a second there because this is Dan's game this weekend. I would add to that in some ways it feels like Rodgers the last couple of weeks has been sending messages to the man in the middle of your screen there.
This guy right here, right?
Head coach Matt LaFleur.
Of course.
I feel like he's not, that Rodgers is to some degree questioning the offense they're running, and to some degree now maybe he's questioning the people who are on the field running it.
And I totally agree with you because at one point Aaron Rodgers said, well, maybe we need to just simplify some things and pull back a little bit. And the guy in the middle said, I don't know what you're talking about. I think our offense is great.
Yeah.
So there probably is a little bit of frustration here when everybody's winning and everyone's happy. Things are great.
Yeah.
Relationships are great. When you start to lose and people are questioning the philosophy on how you're calling offense and as a head coach that's an offensive mind, that maybe he feels like his toes are being stepped on a little bit as a head coach when Aaron Rodgers is saying maybe we need to dial back the offense.
I think the critical difference here is, right, and Aaron's sitting there saying if anybody has a problem, they can come talk to me. The guy in the middle will do that. I mean, like, if there is a problem, like, he has the stature in the organization to do it. I don't know if there's another player in the locker room who does. Right? Like, Aaron can sit and say that if they have a problem, come talk to me. But if you're one of these young receivers, are you really going to walk up to Aaron Rodgers at his locker and say, hey, man, what's the deal? Do we have an issue here? I just don't think that's how it works. And I think this speaks to sort of the generational thing we're talking about, right?
That's it.
He's a lot older than the young players on his team. And it may be we're dealing with a generation that gets motivated differently than the players he's used to playing with over the years. And so I think that dynamic is at play here as well.
And I would say when you talk about that, the generational thing, I'm going to date myself a little bit. Back in my day, when I was a rookie, there was this you have to earn things step by step. It wasn't all at once. You didn't just get the biggest contract right when you walked in the building or a starting position. You had to run down on kickoff. You had to play punt team. You had to pay your dues. Pay your dues.
It's not a big thing these days.
Not a big deal. I mean, it's not. People don't understand the pay your dues thing. You have to pay your dues and work your way into a position. And while you're doing that, you're learning how to be a great football player.
Oh, by the way, they play at Buffalo this Sunday night. They're a double-digit underdog. It's the first time that Rodgers has ever been.
Just what they need.
A double-digit underdog.
Buffalo.
Well, Rodgers actually said Sunday after their loss last week, maybe this is just what we need.
Maybe.
Right now.
Or not.
Or maybe not. The point is, you have the game this week.
Yeah.
So you're talking to a lot of the people there. I think a lot of us on the outside look at this and imagine that this is just utter chaos, that everything there is just a complete mess. What are you hearing from the people inside the building?
Look, I think first of all, to the point of the LaFleur-Rodgers relationship, I think they're okay. Like, they can talk to each other, right? Like they have that. In terms of the locker room, I think that's the interesting part. Like, where are the solutions coming from? And I think that's where Aaron Rodgers is sort of reaching, I don't want to say the end of his rope, but kind of getting close to that, right?
I would add to this that at some level, when you have played a long time and you're a veteran and you're the star quarterback and you're making the big money and you have young players that are really just coming into the league and learning like how to be a football player, you have to be one of the guys. And sometimes as a quarterback, you're like an alien, right? You don't hang out in the same spots. You don't drink the same drink, eat the same food. You don't do the things that the rest of the team does. And I'm not saying that Aaron Rodgers isn't doing that.
Don't think
but I don't see him. I don't see him. With the team dynamic, maybe these young guys don't know how to approach him.
Yeah,
because
you
Aaron
hear a lot.
Rodgers.
You hear a lot about him, making a point of in the cafeteria going having breakfast or lunch with the younger receiver, like that kind of stuff. So he does do that kind of reaching out inside the building. Outside, you're talking about outside the building. No, that's what I don't know.
I think the problem that we have here is a central one. Aaron Rodgers is the ultimate win-now player. You don't re-sign Aaron Rodgers, who is clearly, by his own words, taking it day by day, much less year by year, unless you are all in to win it right this minute.